Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, AV Knits. If you're new here, my name is Alina. On this channel, I like to share all things knitting, things that I have knit before, things that I'm currently working on, and plans that I have. And in today's video, I wanted to share with you guys 6 free knitting sweater patterns that I found. Most of them are on Ravelry, if not all of them, but I think most of these are pretty beginner friendly patterns. I have a couple of them that are a little bit more intermediate / advanced, but those will be more towards the end of the video, so it's a little bit for everybody. If you're a beginner, you can look at these patterns, or if you're more advanced, you can also look at them too. And the reason I wanted to make this video is just to show some of the patterns out there, just because there's so many options. When I first started knitting, I was overwhelmed by all of the options out there, so I'm hoping that this video will help you out a little bit in kind of narrowing down some sweaters that you would want to knit up for this year. So most of these garments that I have to share with you do work all year round, and I hope that some of these are new for you. Let me know in the comments if you found a new pattern from this list. But without further ado, let's go ahead and begin with my first free knitting pattern that I found for a sweater. So I have them all written down in my little notebook, so if I glance down, it's just me looking down at all the notes I wrote down for everything, because I will be kind of describing the sweater and how it's been knit and what yarn is being recommended for it. So the first one I have for you is the Step-by-Step Sweater by Florence Miller, and she's also here on YouTube. And if you weren't aware already, she does have a whole tutorial on this sweater too, like just literally a step-by-step tutorial on this sweater, which is very helpful, honestly, especially for beginners. Like, it literally walks you through the whole process of it. So a little bit about this sweater. It does use an Aran weight yarn. The yarn she recommends for it is the Nepal by Drops. The gauge that she does with it is 16 stitches by 20 rows on 5.5mm needles. And side note, by the way, all of these patterns, they do recommend like a certain size for the needles, but you would just use the needles that meet the gauge of the sweater. So for you, it could be 5mm, for somebody else it could be 6, or it could just be the 5.5. So just keep that in mind, that you don't necessarily have to use the needles size that they say in the pattern. Just use whatever meets the gauge of the pattern. So a little bit about this sweater is it is a raglan sweater that is worked top down, which honestly is my favorite type of sweater to work. So most of the sweaters that I have on my list here are raglan sweaters that are worked top down. They're just like very beginner friendly sweaters to work on. I did try to include a little bit of a variety in here as well, but just to be aware, they are mostly raglan top down sweaters. So what that basically means, at least with this sweater, is that she works the collar first, and she offers 2 different collars you can work. One is like a funnel neck kind of, so it's a little bit higher, and then the other option she has is just a ribbed collar that's just like a little bit high, so it's like maybe like 1.5 to 2 inches high. So you can do one or the other. I'll insert both photos that she has of the sweaters on the screen somewhere, and you guys can see for yourselves. Basically, after you work the collar, you start to work the yoke. So the front and the back, it's like all just like a circle on circular knitting needles. And while you're working the yoke, you also do the raglan increases for the body, for like the back and the front, and then the sleeves as well. And then you just kind of keep working those raglans until you are ready to split for the sleeves. And then once you are splitting for the sleeves, you just put the stitches for the sleeves on hold while working the body down, or vice versa. Honestly, recently I've been liking to do the sleeves first, just to make sure I have enough yarn to finish the sleeves. So I do the sleeves first, and then I go on to the body, but you can do whichever is easiest for you. Now, I forgot to mention really quick, this pattern does offer German short rows, like for some shaping of like the neckline, and just to make the back a little bit longer than the front. In my opinion, it does offer a nicer fit. So I think most of these garments I have to share with you, they do have German short rows. It is a little bit more of an intermediate skill for knitting, but there's so many videos out there. I will actually link one of my favorite videos down below of doing short rows. It took me a while to learn how to do the German short rows. I don't know why, it just would not get through my head, but after I watched some videos on it, it kind of just stuck to my head, and now I can't honestly do a garment without doing the short rows. I just feel like it doesn't look as put together. So most of these garments that I have to share with you do offer like short row shaping. So she does offer that, but I think she also mentions in the pattern that you can opt out of doing that to make it more of a beginner friendly option. So up to you to do what you want, but just so you know, she does offer to do the German short rows. Now I forgot to mention as well, this garment, it is pretty size inclusive. It goes from 90 centimeters to 150 centimeters on the bust circumference, so it is pretty size inclusive. If you don't go by centimeters, that is 35.4 inches all the way up to 59 inches for the biggest size. So it is a pretty oversized fit, not crazy, but it does give you a couple inches of positive ease, so it's pretty nice. And honestly, it's just really nice that Florence offers a YouTube tutorial on this and just walks you through it. It's honestly so helpful. So if you're a beginner, definitely check out the video and the pattern. I will link everything down below, by the way, for you, so you can just go into the description of the video and then you can find everything there. Alright, my second free sweater knitting pattern I have to share with you is the Watercolor Horizon sweater by Drops Design. It's actually a really pretty sweater design. In the sample photo, they do show like stripes on it. You don't have to do the stripes if you don't want to, but I do think it adds a nice touch to the garments. I just think it's really pretty. But the yarn that is recommended for this garment is the Drops Kid Silk Mohair held double, but honestly you can use any mohair or like fingering weight, because two mohairs to get like held together I think creates a fingering weight yarn. So you can use whatever you have in stash or like whatever yarn you want to use, but that is just what is made with this pattern, and I just think it adds a really nice like feminine touch, the mohair. So I really want to make a sweater with mohair yarn, but I'm just kind of sensitive to mohair, I think. So I don't know, maybe I just have to find a mohair that suits me better. The ones I've tried in the past though are the Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair. It's not too irritating for me if I hold it together with something else, but I think just the mohair by itself would be too irritating for my skin. So if you're like me, maybe try a different type of yarn. But basically it is a fingering weight yarn that is used on this, and the gauge for this is 17 stitches by 22 rows using 5mm needles. So as you can see, this isn't a really tight knit, it is a little bit more looser, and so it will create more of like a flowy garment, which is really pretty, and I actually really like it. The sizes that they offer for this go from small to XXXL, or 102 centimeters to 152 centimeters, which also could be 40 inches to 59 3/4 of an inch. So as you can see, it does have a good amount of positive ease, and I just think it's a really pretty design. So a little bit about the garment. This one is also worked top down like in a raglan sweater, like the step-by-step sweater. Like I mentioned earlier, most of these are going to be raglan sweaters. Towards the end of the video, I will show you a little bit of different options as well for like different sweaters. But basically you start by working the neck, and then you also do the short rows in the back so you can create the shaping, which I think is really nice that they offer that as well. Yeah, like I mentioned, I think most of these, if not all of the garments I have to share with you, will have short row shaping. So definitely check out a video on how to do it, just so you can get comfortable with it. And it's honestly not as bad as you think. I was really scared of it at first too, but it's not that bad. And then once you finish the short row shaping, you go ahead and continue doing the yoke while doing raglan increases for the sleeves, for the front, the back, and then same thing, you just kind of knit downwards and you split for the sleeves and the body, and then you just kind of continue working down. And I believe it is finished off with a double knitted rib like around the cuffs and the body. At least that's what it looks like in the photo. It's a little hard to tell, but I'm pretty sure that's how they ended off in the sample photo. Alright, the third pattern I have to share with you guys for a knitted sweater is the Classic by, I'm going to mispronounce this really bad, but I think it's Espcace Tricot. I'm gonna put all of the names on the screen, by the way, so you can see and you can look it up for yourself as well. But this sweater is actually so pretty. I really like how it looks like with the neck and just like the look of it. It's just so beautiful to me. So this sweater uses a DK weight yarn. The yarn they recommend for this is the Alpaca 2 held with a silk mohair by Isager yarn. They also say that if you don't have like this specific yarn, you can also use a fingering weight with a mohair held together. That'll create like a DK weight. So you don't necessarily have to use the exact yarn that each pattern recommends. Just make sure that you meet the gauge that they say, otherwise your pattern might turn out a little bit different than how theirs looks like. The gauge for this one is 21 stitches by 28 rows, and it is using 4.5mm needles as like the main size. I think for like the neck and the cuffs they use smaller size, but for like the main body and the sleeves they use 4.5mm needles. And they do offer sizes 1 to 8, starting with 110 centimeters going to 164 centimeters of like bust circumference. So as you can see, pretty good amount of positive ease. I think it's like 20 to 25 centimeters of positive ease, so it's a good amount, but honestly it's like a very comfy looking fit. So I really want to knit this up. I think it would be super cute, and I love the neck. The neck is honestly probably my favorite part of it. So a little bit about it. It's honestly kind of like repeating myself from the other patterns, but you just begin by working the neck ribbing from the top down until you get to like your desired length. If you want it to be a little bit shorter, you don't want the whole like turtleneck look, you don't have to do that. You can make it shorter if you want. And then after you're done with the neck, you go ahead and start doing the short row shaping. And also when I was reading the pattern, they did say they offer a tutorial on YouTube how to do the short row shaping, so I'm going to link that one below so you can watch it and see that it's not that bad to do. But yeah, after you do the short row shaping, you kind of just do the same thing as the other sweaters I mentioned. You go ahead and do the raglan increases while working top down for the sleeves, for the body, and then once you reach the desired length, you go ahead and split for the sleeves and the body, and then you kind of just knit down to how long you want it, both for the sleeves and for your body. And then you finish off with doing a couple inches of twisted rib, which honestly is a really pretty way to finish off a ribbing. I think I did the twisted rib on my tenon v-neck sweater that I worked on a few weeks ago, and it just gives like a really clean look. I really like it, so I really like that this pattern offers that as well. But yeah, that's basically how the sweater is worked. It's not too difficult, honestly. It's all top down, so it's honestly probably one of the easiest way, in my opinion, to do a sweater. My first sweater that I ever knit up was bottom up. I don't know what I was thinking, but nobody was here to tell me that it's not like the most beginner friendly doing bottom up. But that's okay, still worked out. But I gotta say, the Raglan sweaters are definitely more beginner friendly in my opinion, just because you just start doing it from the top and then you just kind of go down. And it's pretty simple to do. So yeah, that is my third pattern I have to share with you guys. Let's go ahead and move on to my fourth. Alright, so my fourth pattern I have to share with you is the lightweight Raglin Pullover by PurlSoho. It is a fingering weight garment that you knit. The gauge for it is 28 stitches by 33 rows using 3.5mm needles. And I do have to say, this one is a little bit more difficult in my opinion. When I was reading through the pattern details, I would say this isn't super beginner friendly, but you can always give it a go. This sweater is worked bottom up, so a little bit of a change here. And then another thing with this sweater is that you actually work the sleeves separate. So you work the sleeves, both sleeves on their own. So you work the body and the round bottom up. And then after you get to like a certain length, you split for the front and the back panels. And then I think after you knit those, you join in the sleeves then. So it's a little bit more complicated. The pattern has a better way of explaining it than I do. But yeah, after you join in the sleeves, you then go ahead and do some decreases so you can shape for the raglan. So it's kind of like doing it backwards from doing a top down. So with the top down, you start with like a small amount of stitches and you kind of like increase for the raglan, and like so you have enough for the sleeves and the body. But this garment is more of like you start off with a lot of sleeves, and then once you reach towards the top, you start decreasing so that it can fit like around your head and neck area. And then after all of that, you go ahead and do some more setup for the shoulders, and you do some short row shaping for the shoulders here, and then you finish off the whole sweater with doing a couple rows for the neckband. And it honestly turns out really pretty. It does look like a raglan sweater, like a top down, but it's actually not. So I was a little bit surprised by it when I saw the pattern. I honestly thought it was going to be a top down, but something different for you. So if you are interested in more of a challenge, definitely check out this pattern. I don't think I've ever knit up a whole sweater on 3.5mm needles. I have done like a t-shirt before, and that did take a while. So if you are wanting to have a longer project to work on, definitely check out this pattern. Oh, and I forgot to mention, the yarn recommended for this garment is the linen quill. So I believe that is a fingering weight yarn, and then it is more of a tighter fit. So the sizes that it ranges from is 32 inches to 64 inches. So there's not a lot of positive ease in there. It's gonna be pretty like tighter to the skin. Maybe you'll get like 1 or 2 inches of positive ease, depending on blocking how it works out too, but it's gonna be more of like a tighter fit. Alright, the fifth sweater I have to share with you guys is the Nestoria sweater by Audrey Borrego, I think you say it. As always, I'm gonna have the name up on the screen so you can see for yourself. But this sweater, it uses an Aran weight yarn. The yarn that she recommends for this is the Yoga from Concept by Katya. But as always, use whatever yarn that meets the gauge. You don't have to use the exact yarn that is recommended. The gauge that she does for this though is 20 stitches by 25 rows on 4mm needles, and the sizes that she offers go from 90 centimeters to 170 centimeters, or 35.5 inches to 67 inches. So I would say it's pretty size inclusive in there, and you will get a couple inches of positive ease in there as well, which is always nice. A little bit about this sweater is it is a little bit different from the other sweaters because it's a drop down sweater. So it's not going to be a raglan where you increase for the sleeves and the bodies at the same time. So how this one is worked is that you actually start knitting each back shoulder separately. So the right and the left back shoulders on their own. And I think she starts off with doing the left shoulder first and doing short row shaping in the left shoulder. And then after she's done with all of that, she puts the stitches on hold and I think cuts the yarn, and then does the same for the right shoulder. And then after she's done with that, she connects the shoulders together and works on the back panel and does that for like a few inches or however much she does it for. So after finishing working the back panel, you put those stitches on hold, and then you go ahead and pick up stitches for the right front and the left front, and then do some more short row shaping. So this sweater has a lot of shaping in it, which is always nice because I feel like the end result fits a little bit better because it's like shaped everywhere for like your shoulders, your back, so that's definitely appreciated. But yeah, after you do the shaping for both the left and then the right, I think you cut the yarn on the left and you leave the right, and then you join those together as well. Then you knit downwards until you reach the same length that the back has, and then you're gonna join the front and back pieces together and then just kind of knit straight down stockinette stitch until you reach the hem. For the hem, she ends up doing this really pretty ribbed hem. I think it's like a 3x4 ribbed hem or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. But I just think it looks really pretty. So that's how she finishes off the body. And then after that, she goes in and picks up stitches for each sleeve. I think she starts at the underarm and then just kind of goes around and picks up how many stitches you need, and then just kind of works that down while while also decreasing on the sleeves every couple rounds, just so it can be more like of a tapered sleeve. And then once she reaches the hem again, she'll do the same ribbed pattern that she did on the body, and then do the same for the other sleeve. And then after that, she goes ahead and picks up stitches for the collar here and does like a ribbed collar as well. You can do it how you want it, of course. And then that's basically it. Honestly, my description of it might have been super confusing, but it's actually not too confusing of a pattern. It's pretty straightforward, so I would definitely recommend to check it out if you want more of like a dropped shoulder, relaxed fit. I've really been into the dropped shoulder look recently. I just think it's super comfy and cozy looking, and I'm honestly a big fan of it, so definitely check out the pattern. Okay, I have one more pattern to share with you guys, and this one is actually not a sweater, but more of like a cardigan that's like a button-up, but I just thought it was too pretty not to share. It is a little bit more complicated. I've seen it on Ravelry a few times. So the pattern is the Winter Sweater by Gagnon Osborn. I will insert a photo. This garment is so beautiful, but it really gives me those like Gilmore Girl fall vibes. I think it's just a really pretty garment. Obviously, this is a little bit more advanced. Maybe I will take this on in the fall time, but right now I don't know if I'm at that level yet. But if you are more of like an advanced knitter, definitely check this pattern out. It's just so gorgeous. I love all of the detailing and textures in it, the cables in it. It's just a beautiful pattern. So this pattern asks for a bulky weight yarn, which is always really nice because I feel like you're not going to spend too much time on it. Like it's not like a fingering weight yarn. It's like a bulky weight usually tends to go by a lot faster. It is a textured pattern though, so keep that in mind. It might not go that fast. But the gauge that they do for this is 14 stitches by 20 rows using 5.5mm needles. And then the sizes that they offer is 40.5 inches to 64 inches. Or 95.5 centimeters to 159 centimeters. So it has a good amount of positive ease in there. I think like 10 centimeters or so of positive ease you could get from it. But basically this design is worked bottom up. I think the body in itself has a lot of cables, and then the sleeves are like moss stitched. So very beautiful pattern. And then the button band is worked at the same time as the body, and then at the end, once you work all the panels, you actually have to seam it together. So a little bit more of a challenge. I wouldn't say it's a super quick like get it on the needles, get it off the needles. Like, it is a lot of steps. So if you think that this is something you can take on, definitely do it because it's a very beautiful garment. I'm really thinking of casting this on for this fall. I think it would just be such a beautiful cardigan to have. But I think the pattern does say that you seam the pieces together using mattress stitch, which I think I've only done that once in one of my garments, and I think it was the first sweater that I ever knit up. So if I could do it then, I know I could do it again, except this one is obviously more of a challenge because of all the textures in it. But regardless, it is a beautiful garment, and I really wanted to share it with you guys in case one of you haven't seen it before and you wanted to take on more of a challenge for a garment. Alright, so those are all of the patterns I wanted to share with you today of some free knitted sweaters out there. I hope you guys liked this video and you found something that you like, and hopefully will cast on. I think for me personally, I really want to cast on the classic sweater and then possibly the winter sweater that I just shared. But we will see. We will see if I can take on that challenge. But if you've stuck around this long, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate all of your support. I hope you continue to watch all of the videos I post. I'm trying to post videos weekly, so hopefully I can stay on that. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!